Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good morning to everyone. Let us begin this session with Bismillah and the dua that our program today will gain barakah, insyaAllah, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen, Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Praise be to Allah, the most gracious and the most merciful, the cherisher and the sustainer of the worlds. And peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his family and his companion. Honorable Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Dato Dzulkifli Abdul Razak, Rector of IIUM, our respected speaker, Dr. Ghazali Muhammad Fadzil, Knowledge Management Strategies, respected professors, Dato and UMC members. Respected Madam Noaini Mukhtar, Chief Librarian, Darul Hikmah Library, IIUM. Respected KM champions from Centers of Studies and Administration Officers. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are now broadcasting from the International Islamic University, and on behalf of Darul Al-Hikmah Library, we would like to extend our warm welcome and thank you to all our special guests and all participants to this auspicious event on Knowledge Management Awareness Talk for the IIUM community. Even though we are online, we hope that all of us will be able to reap as many fruitful ideas, benefits, and experiences towards effective knowledge management of our knowledge assets in our organization, inshallah. And to begin with, I would like to welcome Madam Noraini Mukhtar to give her welcome remark. Please, Madam.
Thank you, Prof. Abdul Rahman. Yang berbahagia, Prof. Emeritus Tan Sri Dato Dzulkifli Abdul Razak, the Rector of IIUM, respected speaker for today, Dr. Ghazali Muhammad Fadzil, Knowledge Management Strategies, respected Prof. Dato and UMC members, respected KM champions whom we are doting and hoping for your utmost cooperation from the Center of Studies and Administration Officers, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good blessed morning, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. In the name of Allah, most gracious and most merciful, praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, and blessings be on our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family and his companions. It is our great pleasure and honor to welcome us all to the Knowledge Management Awareness Program. Thank you for being with us today. This event is one of the initiatives from KM team of the Darul Hikmah Library. We would like to express our appreciation to Tan Sri Rector, our speaker, Dr. Ghazali, and Prof. Abdul Rahman for their willingness to spend some time with us today. We are very honored to have you with us. Jazakumullah khair. Not forgetting our appreciation to Sister Masita Abdul Rahman and Sister Mazna Zakaria for their leadership and their team's dedicated support, without which today's event would not have been made possible. It is a great honor for the library to host this important KM awareness program. It is with the intention to give a clear understanding of what knowledge management is about and leveraging it effectively to achieve the university's mission and mission. KM is defined as getting the right information, of which the definition, there's more definition inshallah later by Dr. Gus, but this is the definition that really strikes us at the library. KM is defined as getting the right information to the right people at the right time and helping people create knowledge, share and act upon information in ways that will measurably improve the performance of the university. In the past few years, IIUM has started to adopt an approach that was knowledge management. This was stated in IIUM ICT Strategic Plan 2013 to 2015. Among the action plans that were identified previously were to identify and capture information that exists across the university through KM audit exercise, and to instill the habit of knowledge sharing practices within and across the university. The installation of the knowledge sharing habit was articulated in the development of virtual community of practice, the VCOP portal, which was formerly called iHikmah. This portal was managed by the library, but due to some technical issues, the portal was not unable to be sustained. However, the spirit of the knowledge sharing culture is still overwhelming among us today, especially during the coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. Now, as numerous times mentioned by our respected Rector, knowledge management is one of the strategic initiative plans for IIUM, as illustrated in the IIUM Roadmap 2021 to 2022 framework. Knowledge management is the responsibility of everybody. Let me underline, everybody. That is, everybody is to understand its meaning and the implementation of it, because everybody creates, manages, preserves, reuses organizational knowledge or explicit knowledge available in our university. For example, the policies, procedures, the SOPs, to name a few. There are lots more. Hence, by listening to the KM expert in this talk, it is hoped that we can have new insight into what KM is and make us mindful about our roles and responsibilities on creating, identifying, storing, retrieving, preserving, and reusing the critical and strategic knowledge assets of our university. With that note, we end our words of welcome with Jazakumullah khair al-jaza wa billahi tawfiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Over to you, Prof. Abdul Rahman. Prof, you are muted.
Okay. So, walaikum salam. Thank you, Madam Noraini, for your welcoming remark. Now, with much honor, I would like to respectfully call upon Prof. Emeritus Tan Sri Dato Dzulkifli Abdul Razak, our Rector of the International Islamic University, to deliver his opening remarks. Please welcome Tan Sri.
Thank you. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you, Prof. Rahman. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin wa salatu wassalamu syafil anbiya mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Prof. Rahman, Madam Noraini, Dato Dr. Ghazali, insyaAllah dapat Dato' nanti. And friends, ladies and gentlemen, and I like this word, knowledge champions. I think all of us are knowledge champions. And we have to be the knowledge champion, otherwise I don't understand why we are here. What are we championing if not knowledge? I am really very honored to be given this opportunity. Although I know very little about knowledge management, but I'm going to share with you my impression and my experience in dealing with knowledge a little bit. And I want to go back to my early days in 1995 when I started to write a column for the New Straits Times. And this has been now more than 26 years, and I'm writing column every week. And I also cannot imagine how can I write a column every week for 26 years without fail, right? But not only that, I think what happened actually, all these columns that I've written now is now deposited in another network called Voicing Concern. And for the last 26 years, I am now able to connect whatever I've written for the last 6 years from these small databases that I talked to you about. So if I talk about something now, I probably can refer back to what I've written maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and make a connection between these two levels of knowledge. Yang dulu ada, yang tak ada, and it becomes a bigger knowledge for me to write on. So this knowledge storage, as it were, become cumulative, and at the end of the day, it gives you a bigger perspective of what knowledge is all about. If I were to look just at all my own training, I'm a pharmacist, and I will not be able to talk about any other things around the world except for the medicine that I sell. Even that medicine pun is increasing by leaps and bounds. They produce medicine and you are not able to connect this, and you're not able to know what is the latest. So by having this kind of a storage, I know what I've written and I know how do I interpret it, and I then can take it to another level of interpretation. And that gives you a wider scope of activities, a wider expression, and a wider link between the world around you. I think that is my own experience of just collecting data that I produce myself and not even looking at other people who produce data. Some people say we are writing about 600,000 articles a month or something like that. And how do you connect this? So I begin with that kind of a statement because I think this university also has been producing so much of this data. But the question we ask, who collects this data? And more importantly, who collates it and who connects it so that it became beyond just knowledge? I think we will arrive at wisdom at one point. And I think that's the objective of this whole activity. Where can we create this wisdom if we cannot connect and this knowledge not only from you but from other people around the world at the same time? So as I go to the library activity and I got to know that you already got a knowledge management system, now I would want to enhance it because this gives us a good start. We apparently are the only library that is active in this. I'm also convinced that we have reached out to other people at the same time. I was talking to a consultant that was working with us for 6 years or so. And kebetulan pula, we are starting this venture into sustainable development. And sustainable development, as you know, has got 17 goals. And these 17 goals need to be connected. So if you talk about education, which is Sustainable Development Goal 4, yeah. Now the question people will ask, how do Goal 4 relate to Goal 1? What is Goal 1? Goal 1 is about no poverty. So kalau kita ada knowledge and the number of people who get poor increases, then the knowledge that we create probably is useless because it does not help goal number 1. Yeah? And then goal number 3, exactly what it is now. People talk about health and well-being. Yeah? And the coronavirus, health and well-being is threatened. Now the knowledge that we produce, that is help to elevate this issue of goal number 3. Kalau tidak, what's the purpose of this knowledge that we produce? Of course, academically, we say, I publish this in this journal and I this 2-tiered and 3-tiered or whatever it is for the ranking purposes. But that does not give any impact. So it's just about you producing an article that you get it published. Then who benefits from this article? And research also show orang yang publish ni, if we can get about 300 or 3,000 people to read it around the world, it's already good enough. But we are not talking about 3,000, we are talking about millions of people who needs this data so that they can change their lifestyle, so that they can be more, assured of what is going on. Especially kita talk about the poor, the Malays, the Muslim particularly, when they have got no access to information, So that becomes a duty. That to me is the Fadzil Kifayah that we want to attempt, and making this knowledge available to them on a open access, misalnya, I think makes us a lot more relevant to them. And if you go back to the hadith, I'm not good at this, but one of it will say probably when we are dead, that is the only link that you've got now with the knowledge that you grow. Yeah. So the article that I write today may be read by a few more people, although I'm gone. Maybe adalah sikit barakah dalam kubur yang sempit tu. InsyaAllah jangan sempit lah agaknya. Because of that knowledge base. I think that's the only incentive that I can give you right now. Kalau tanya Tan Sri, kalau kami tulis ni berapa pula kami dapat naik pangkat macam mana, I will not be able to answer you. But certainly Allah SWT says, if you give this knowledge and somebody used it because it's useful, then you already got your benefit. I think that benefit that Allah SWT gives us is better than I can give you. If that can move you, then let's work on this knowledge system ni, yang kita katakan nanti will benefit not only IIUM, the benefit the ummah and people around the world that needs it. But provided we are able to store it, provided we are able to link it, and provided we are able to make it accessible to other people. That's probably a technical issue that we can deal, and people like Prof. Rahman and Dr. Ghazali probably will know that better. So the idea was basically just to do that. Yeah. As we now create more information, and we are creating more information, where do you store this information? Okay, the information that I produce, mungkin because I'm a rector, somebody probably store it somewhere, whether they like it or not, and they are doing it. But what about students? Student yang now I know they go UNGS, they go into this course and they're supposed to do a project. They did the project, and the project was submitted to the lecturer. The chapter graded. Some of them are very good. Yeah, some of the blogs they write are fantastic. But who captures this? Or is it left behind just like that? So I want to make it accessible that everything that they produce, we will then be able to capture it, and we will then be able to store it the way it should be stored, depending on the level of knowledge or the type of knowledge. That could be a later discussion, and including you yourself as knowledge champions. You know, the one that you write, the one that you think could be used. Then how do you store this? This is a new venture. We do not know how to do it. What sort of a system are we following? Nurani mentioned Al-Hikmah, but Al-Hikmah is not working now. So what else can we do? So that is the only I think incentive that I can tell you. And I also want to mention, when we started the Pusat Racun Negara in USM, we are the only one. There's nobody else. But over the period of time, when we get all these calls, when we get all this consultation, the research that we do, we store it in a database. And that database now is on demand. After 25 years, the database now is on demand because it's typically unique Malaysian database. So if we talk about poisoning, misalnya, yeah, snake poisoning, the kind of snakes in Malaysia does not exist somewhere else, and therefore we become, quote unquote, almost the resource center, the experts on those kind of poisonings. So it gives us another leverage to showcase and to put our university on a pedestal that other people do not. And certainly IIUM is already unique because we are the only Islamic university that is internationally, reached. So people will come back to find out about what are the Islamic view, misalnya, even sustainable development. That's why we encourage you to talk about spirituality, because nobody wants to talk about this, or nobody dares to talk about this. But we have got our database, we want to do this. And that will make us different, distinctively different from other universities. Yeah. So those are the issues that I think you need to think of, so that we will be able to launch this. Something that macam kita punya ICSI juga lah, another work that has been done by the library for more than 10 years. Now I think we are making it accessible to the world, and people know that we are better than the Library of Congress as far as the Islamic punya entry is concerned. And in other words, we are able to show that we have got the capacity. The Muslims are not, not that backward, but we need to push ahead on this agenda. Yeah. The third thing that I want to also emphasize is the tacit knowledge. Orang Melayu dia tak banyak menulis lah, dia banyak berborak. Right? Kalau berborak itu boleh dijadikan macam penulisan, agaknya kita dah world class lama dah. Yeah. Macam-macam lah boraknya, pumpang kedai kopi, pumpang, but no documentation. So when I come here, people say, Tan Sri ni dah buat dah 20 tahun dah kami buat. I say, yeah, where's your documentation? Asalkan kita be reminded all the time, the two malaikat left and right keep on noting down apa yang saya cakap, apa yang kita buat. The malaikat are doing it every day, we are not doing anything. And kita mati besok, Allah Ta'ala kata, Zul, ni buku kau. This is your book. See what you've written, what I've written for you. Yeah, God should know better, but God has got a book for us to come out. Oh, hari ni aku tak buat macam ni rupanya. Yeah. But kita di sini relax je. We don't write anything. And yet you want people to believe us that we have done something. If God does not believe us because it's not written, then why should I believe you because it's not written? That's the culture that we need to develop. That's the culture that we need to say, look, I must write this. And that is tacit knowledge that we are losing every time, because as one generation goes, the knowledge goes with them. Yeah, we are not able to find this out now because it's not written anywhere. And I think we need to change this culture. As you write, why don't you also, as you talk, why don't you write it? Why don't you journal it? Why don't you put it somewhere? And this is where the acknowledgement becomes. So maybe there is a room for this that talk about just oral history. Kita interview lah orang-orang yang almost, not there perhaps in the next 10 years or so. We interview them, we get their ideas of what this is all about. Because at the end of the day, we need to connect with the past. This knowledge that we've got today is not about just knowledge of today, it's the knowledge of the past. Sustainable development, kita dah yakin. Dah datuk nenek kita dulu memang sustainable long time ago. Yeah? But when it comes to our time, that we are no longer sustainable because we don't inhibit their budaya to be sustainable as such. And this is why now United Nations are coming back. My friends UNESCO kata, why can't we work with your indigenous population? Because we want to learn how they are living sustainability still at this stage in time. Now people are looking for this kind of data. So these are the tacit data that we need to capture. How do you do this? Again, I think hopefully the experts will tell us. And the Malay punya budaya will only be respectable if there is this body of knowledge. Yeah. Now we are talking about sejahtera, we are talking about budi. You cannot find anything. You buka lah dictionary pun, there's nothing that can be written substantially academically about this. We need to research balik. We need to talk to people balik and then bring it back as part and parcel of the culture that has been there for a long time. And therefore, it's easier for us because ini sebahagian daripada budaya kita. So kalau kita nak bercakap tentang sustainable development, it's part of my culture. So it's easy for me to rather to learn as though this is a culture from the West that we need to learn. Vocabulary-nya lain, dia punya. Now let me tell you what I'm facing now. The Prime Minister has just announced key happiness outcome, KNO. That was a week ago. Dia kata dari segi dia punya konsep of keluarga Malaysia ini, dia punya key outcome is happiness. Alright? I've got a problem with the word happiness. I don't know about you, but I've got a problem with the word happiness because my argument with orang Mak Saleh ni, when they talk about happiness, dia punya own understanding of happiness. I give you one interaction I've got with them in one conference. So I told them, as far as Malay is concerned, if you go into the kamus, the word happiness are expressed in many terms. Boleh kebahagiaan, boleh keseronokan, kegembiraan, keceriaan. I learn a new word, karar. All these are menunjukkan a level of happiness lah. Kalau keseronokan tu very temporary, seronok hari ni because I've got some good news, and when the good news is gone lah. It's not for a long time. Yeah. Kebahagiaan could be very long. Yeah, they call me yang berbahagia selalunya. I don't know whether bahagia atau tidak, but it has to be long lasting. The kebahagiaan itu, and it doesn't depend on material wealth. So orang miskin dia bahagia, kadang-kadang orang kaya tak bahagia. A different connotation. Tapi happiness ni lain ceritanya. Happiness ni, kalau saya kata happiness, dia kata there's one fellow, he's supposed to be an expert in Australia. Dia kata happiness as far as you're concerned is genetically linked, katanya. Saya termenung sekejap. Saya rasa, what about if I'm predisposed not to be happy genetically? Or dia kata, we can help you. Atau how do you help me? We give you money, katanya. Sudah, kalau we give you money, then what about if I finish the money? We give you more money. So jadi dia punya notion of happiness dan kita punya notion of kebahagiaan ini lain. So kalau kita ambil dia punya interpretation ataupun dia punya definition of happiness, kita punya culture and that's why agaknya ada jendela, ada apa, WhatsApp semua bagi duit je. If that's the kind of happiness that the government is going to promote, then I think we are done. We will be very dependent on the government. We will be very materialistic in our outlook, and the whole culture of budaya kebahagiaan ini and so on and so forth will not exist. You don't want to do voluntary work because you doesn't make you happy because you don't get money. These are very very important issues that we need to debate. And bila saya buka kamus Dewan, bila tengok sejahtera, di bawah sejahtera tu everything else di situ. Gembira pun sejahtera, seronok pun sejahtera, ceria pun sejahtera. Maknanya the big title sejahtera tu engulf all the type of happiness yang kita ada. And in other words, it's richer than just the definition of happiness. How do I now tell the Prime Minister we want to talk about beyond happiness? We want to talk about sejahtera, which is now we are talking about it at the same time. So it becomes another argument for us at an intellectual level, perhaps, to bring this across to the politicians, to the policymakers, so that they really understand. And this database will be helpful to us. Will be helpful to us because now we are stored in that particular sense. Mana buku banyak buku tu jap? And the other one, the two. So I'll give you another example. This is what our friends from IRK and counsellors has been doing in the last COVID. But perhaps you are not sure. They want the databases sendiri, and they write articles about it, And suddenly Majlis Keselamatan Negara got to know about it, and they say, "Can you publish it into a book?" Yeah, and this book is sponsored by them. If you look at there, you can see the lambang. Yeah. So again, they say the moment you got your database, you can do 101 things with it. And this now is published, and they are using this as a reference as far as the mental health is concerned. Yeah. Our brother Ehsan, I think yang buat mural tu, dia punya masa lapang dia buat cartoons on COVID. Yeah. Lagi sekali buku ni dibukukan oleh MKN kerana dia kata ini penting untuk anak-anak yang tak boleh baca. Budak-budak Jas 1, budak-budak Jas 2, they want to see more visual rather than this writing expression. Now, that is another 2 publication coming out of what? Coming out from that small repository that they've been doing over the last 2 years when COVID comes in, And now buku kartun ni we're translating it into a kind of what do I call snippets 2 minit ni. Yeah. Then we're now giving it to Astro, we're giving it to Bernama, we're even creating our own robots yang boleh spew this 2 minit punya tu budak-budak. Right? So then another extension of that. Just to give you an example, the moment we have got this database, we can do 1,001 things with it and remain consistent in trying to to tell what the university is doing as far as that is concerned. So that is the only thing that I can relate to you, yeah. And I think it has got something to do with the university moving forward as a university of respectable, intellectual, and knowledge based. Rather than just being political or being whatever you want to talk about it lah. So and yesterday I want to relate also yesterday. Malam-malam saya ada berbicaraan dengan 4 orang alumni kita. Ya. Dan salah satu daripada alumni itu namanya Hazman. Hazman, I think dia juga budak IRK. He's a YouTuber. Dia ada mungkin lebih 200,000 orang follower. Alright. Dan cerita dia very nice. I just want to share with you. Dia kata bila saya keluar daripada UIA, I am lost. Dia kata. Saya tak langsung praktis apa yang saya belajar dekat UIA. He becomes a celebrity. He works with CNA, tak salah saya, the Singapore thing, and he becomes known and so on and so forth. Lepas tu kata after a while, dia kata I feel jiwa saya kosong. Despite all these likes and followers and stuff like that tu, dia kata jiwa dia kosong. And masa tu dia kata all the education that you have given us in IIUM comes back. You know, and now he managed to go back to what we have taught him, quote unquote, from this university, and he changed his lifestyle. So dalam dia punya website or whatever you call it, dia tulis cerita dia, macam mana dia keluar dan dia sesat, dia hilang, dia macamnya hilang punca lah, ya. Tapi macam mana dia boleh balik dengan ilmu-ilmu yang kita telah beri dia kepada UIA, right? Dan sekarang ini dia menggunakan itu untuk memberitahu kepada anak-anak muda yang juga yang dah sesat ni, yang hilang punca, yang daripada bunuh diri, follow what I do, you know. And he got a lot of people asking him advice, what can I do next? If I've lost my way, what can I do next? You know, and he's giving this advice to people. Yeah. And yesterday also we talked about apa peranan media, social media. I'm going to call him back to talk to our young students that social media is not 100% kosher. Yeah. And dia bagi dia punya opinion. Dia kata social media lain daripada communication biasa. Communication dengan saya, dengan Prof Rahman, kalau kita bergaduh, sama ada kita bertumbuk ataupun whatever lah, physically we can get. From social media, if I argue with Rahman, I disagree with him, I just disconnect. You know, but how many of us has got the courage to disconnect when you read something which is not good, something that is slanderous, something that mengaibkan orang, something that talks about negatively, kita tambah pula lagi. Yeah, dia kata that is the control that you've got over social media. You can disconnect if you don't like it. But how many of us does that? Rather than adding on and making it more, to get more likes on, because we are now adding into all those things. So these are the issues that I think becomes very important. For this guy now, he has got a database just to connect to the world of through his own experience how to go to get back into a sober life and to make life more meaningful. And I invited him, and I probably want him to tell our students, because saya cakap dengan student, dia orang tak berapa nak dengar. Dia kata orang tua ni tak reti tentang social media ni, dalam handphone pun tak ada, nak advice kita pula. So but when this guy talks and has gone through this experience, then I think he's more realistic and he's more reliable in his experience. Perhaps he can be more advisory in this particular context. So I want to end there. I hope I have already made some what you call a note. If there is any question you want to ask, I am prepared. But as far as I'm concerned, we've got now kita dah ada SAF. Yeah, that gives us a background of what we need to do, Rahmatan lil Alamin, all those things. We've got our vision statements, yeah, the 7 missions and stuff like that. That needs to be connected to SAF. We have got our scenario plan that tells us where we want to go 20 years from now, right? We've got our own roadmap. How do we do it on year? Yeah. But what we need now is this database. Yeah. So all the things that we have done, we want to collect it here so that we can pick whatever we want from this, so that this can be used in a appropriately that is relevant to the university. Kita tak payah pinjam Harvard punya, kita tak payah pinjam Oxford punya, kita ada kita punya yang lebih sesuai untuk kita, that we don't have to borrow people punya experience. Sometimes culturally they are not compatible with us. And if we can do that, I think the whole thing is complete, and I think we are ready to move. Yeah, inshallah. So I would like to thank you once again, especially for those who are listening. I cannot see where you are, who you are, but I'm very convinced that this is a commitment that we take together, and I hope we can do this as soon as possible in trying to move the university forward, insyaAllah, from next year on. So, terima kasih banyak Nurani, terima kasih banyak Prof Rahman, and if there's any question, I'm prepared to answer. Otherwise, we can go ahead. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Tan Sri, for your opening remarks. There's a lot of points that you mentioned there, and insights, for point of emphasis for all of us, and the need for every one of us attending this to have this awareness on the importance of why we need to manage our knowledge, and also the fact that IIUM is in a unique position, especially in terms of the integration of knowledge. And also, if we can set up the database where everybody can play their role to contribute to this database, inshallah, IIUM can be a point of reference, to promote, the kind of values and the vision that we have, inshallah. Now, I would like to move to, the main important part of our program today. Let me just quickly introduce you to our speaker, Dr. Ghazali Muhammad Fadzil, or quite popularly known also as Dr. Ghaz. He's a knowledge management strategist, a consultant, a practitioner, a facilitator, a speaker, and also a planner. He is the founder and also the main consultant for GKM Consultancy Services, a board member of the Librarian Association of Malaysia, a board of director Perbadanan Perpustakaan Awam Negeri Melaka. He is also a member of the KL Knowledge Management Roundtable, also a columnist in the UTP's KM Quarterly. He has a lot of experience working in many organizations. I would like to just quickly, cite some of those, and later I would like to give the liberty to Dr. Ghaz himself to maybe elaborate more on his biodata. He was with the Bank Negara Malaysia for 13 years as the Deputy Director of Human Capital Development Center, the Knowledge Management, Head of Knowledge Management Center of the Bank Negara. He was with the Multimedia Development Corporation as the Manager for Knowledge Management for 3 years. He was with University Technology Mara as a part-time lecturer at the School of Information Management in the areas of specialization, marketing, and competitive intelligence, information management, and also knowledge management for 3 years. He was with the Telecom Multimedia as the head of Multimedia Resource Center for 3 years. He was with the Securities Commission as the head of Information Resource Center for 3 years. He was with Oshawa Information Services as the project manager for 3 years. He was with the Rubber Research Institute of Malaysia, RRIM, as the research librarian for 3 years. He was with the ERIC Information Center, Syracuse University. And then he was also with the University Malaya Library as a assistant researcher, way back in 1995. I think there are much longer lists that I need to, to read if I were to explain everything about him, but I think we are a bit behind time. So now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Dr. Ghaz, as the best resource person and the towering figure in the knowledge management field in Malaysia. And inshallah, along with the session, you may ask questions at any time during the presentation in either both Malay or English, and Dr. Ghaz will be very pleased to answer your question. So over to you, Dr. Ghaz. The floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, thank you very much, Professor Rahman, for that kind introduction. It's a long list of experience, that skill I gathered throughout my life, actually. And now it's time for me to share all of them. Basically, when people ask me whether or not I like to share or afraid to share, no, I'm not. Okay, thank you once again, Professor Rahman. Yang berbahagia, Professor Emeritus Tan Sri Dato Dzulkifli Abdul Razak, Rector IIUM, respected Madam Nuraini Mokhtar, Chief Librarian, Darul Hikmah Library, IIUM, respected Professor, Dato NUMC members, respected KM champions, as Tan Sri say, a key person, and all of us champion. For Center of Studies Administration Office, fellow guests, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, first of all, I'd like to thank actually Puan Nurani and my colleague dekat URA for inviting me, or rather giving me this opportunity actually to share what I know and give certain context to what knowledge management is and what our role within our capacity. Well, Trans Rizal has set the context actually. I was thinking when listening to you, it's always a pleasure listening to Trans Rizal actually. And I don't know whether he realized it. We have been in certain occasion together, but it always amazed me listening to him. He may say that he does not know about knowledge management. He is actually the epitome of knowledge management. Whatever that Tan Sri shared just now is all about knowledge management, Tan Sri. You know a lot already. Probably my sharing today is actually maybe putting everything in context so that we can understand a bit more about what knowledge management is. Okay. So my slide basically can be academic. Some of them can be business-like. Some of them layman, so that all of us can understand what it is. It's all based on years of experience that I've been doing the so-called knowledge management. I think years back, because I've one of the person that blessed to have learned knowledge management with the rest of the community at that point in time when they are learning about knowledge management. So that's why I'm so bullish of sharing all this. And when I got the invitation from IIUM, I was glad actually. Now I have another platform, Alhamdulillah, that to share that this perspective and to share this story. Okay, with that, of course, I have to use my slide. And within that slide, when I use my slide, when I put my slide up, actually I'm just talking to my slide. I'm not be able to see you because of technology that we're using today. So I'll be talking to my slide. So as what Professor Rahman was saying, if you have any question, just please do ask. Maybe Prof. Rahman will let me know what the question and whatnot. Normally I can see the question, but in this case, today I can't. So I need help there. But I really encourage you to ask anytime that you want to ask, because just like Trans Rizal saying, knowledge is very contextual. So you cannot leave your question at the end and then the question built into something else. So the context lost. That's why I like to answer question, clarification, question immediately there and then, so that the context is right for me to answer and you for to understand. Okay, let's go with that. I'm going to share my slide now. My title is maybe knowledge management, misalignment, and misunderstanding. Maybe there is, maybe there not. Maybe let's see and find out. I'm going to start with this. No, this is a lot of think. If you think and you reflect on these two zebra crossing, and then you know what the meaning of the maybe you can reflect on your life. In fact, yesterday the PM announced that those that valid can travel now can travel merentas negeri. Maybe that's app as well for me sharing this. This also an indication that we may know certain thing, but we do not understand fully. Or in the terms of knowledge, maybe we take for granted we know anything that we do not fully understand. Maybe we assume a lot of things. Okay, for instance, the white crossing. Okay, I purposely paused there for you to read. Pemandu kenderaan anda wajib berhenti jika terdapat pejalan kaki sedang melintas. What about yellow? Yellow first come, first serve, sort of. If you're driving, you see that already somebody about to cross, actually you wajib berhenti. By law, you need to stop. Vice versa. If you are crossing, you see the car approaching, you need to stop. So who comes first? We have the right to cross or to pass. Normally, we assume that we understand this. Tan Sri Rizal talk about our culture. Yes, mainly in our culture, we assume we know this, what we don't know. So in the context of knowledge, we can reflect a lot of things in our life that we think we know, we assume we know, what we don't really. Actually. So that's why I love to use this slide to pick our brain, especially in this Monday morning. And maybe some of us are thinking crossing the border, the state border now, because we are allowed to travel already. Okay, but let's think about it properly. The next one is another interesting study done by psychologists, a prominent one. Nanti I will show, and you know who, probably you have read his book. And to those that have seen actually this slide, just keep quiet. Just I want to pick your brain on this and see and relate that in the context of knowledge, and also whatever that Transizor has said, shared with us just now. Okay, just listen, follow instruction, and then we get back to you.
This is a position activity. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the basketball. How many passes did you count? The correct answer is 15 passes. But did you see the gorilla? This video is from research by Daniel Simons and Christopher Chabris and is copyrighted. It is available for use in talks, training, and teaching on DVDs from VizCog Productions. Learn more at theinvisiblegorilla.com.
Yes, the title of that book is actually Invisible Gorilla by Dave Simon. When the video was first shown to me, it was in one of the conferences. I can't remember where. I was shocked. I did not see the gorilla. I don't know how many of you actually see the gorilla, but that's indication. The term is actually unintentional blindness, blind spot, if you may. This can happen to us. If you're given too focused on certain thing, if you think that we know enough, you know that the ilmu that we have is too small comparative to what the world has and apa yang Allah dah bagi pada kita. So that's the two slides that we're going to start with, and a sort of reflection to us, giving us context as to what are we going to talk about today. That's in our conversation today. We're going to talk about, briefly, I'm going to touch about the new wealth comparative advantage of today. Probably you know this already, but you guys are going to go take a quick peek at it. Knowledge economy, knowledge management, what it is. Then try to relate everything to put in context to our daily work, especially in the academic environment, teaching, and of course, how that knowledge process touches us. Okay, there's a bit of detail about it later. And last but not least, just one slide that I kept in. I don't think I can put enough in one slide, but just enough to trigger you what is our role and critical role that we need to play in knowledge management, or rather managing knowledge. Okay, this is what you understand about the economy. It still exists. I'm not saying that it's totally old economy, but still exists. But we understand economy as material, land, how much acres of land that we have, how tall the building, big the building, and of course, to some of us, the size of our car, the type of car, and all that. We understand that, and we can relate to that economy, and we understand that. But today is different already. In fact, long before years when I was with MDC, Multimedia Development Corporation, we know that already this has changed and totally going to change the world, which is proven to some of them proven today. Basically, the new economy more so look at this. What we carry, our children use, maybe a translator don't have one, But yes, this certainly that you use, even the computer and all that, they use every day actually to connect to the world, to learn, to use. And so some people is too dependent on this gadget that you cannot leave home without it because there's everything there. In fact, now with the PKP punya experience, the MCU 1 and 2 or even 3, which is we staying at home but rely more on this technology to get the work done, not just the work done, for our life actually. So we get connection, all that. I certainly is one of them. Yeah. And this move I would like to certain extent. But there's certain thing that you need to be very careful and to understand this really. In the world of business, we have Grab. Now, not only Grab as a car or taxi, whatever it is, but also you have Grab food and all sort of Grab. And the transition of that Grab now move into another rail. And since the PKP, the biggest business is actually delivery. And you have Food Panda and also all that. Okay. And if you look at the stock market, if you list or you look at Fortune 500 companies, the top 10 or top 20 companies are this company: Google, Amazon, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and whatnot. Okay. What I'm saying is the whole economy is entirely based on knowledge. For example, Grab. Grab is the biggest taxi company that do not own a single taxi or a car. It's just an application. So everything derived, moved by application. So behind the application is the brain, somebody that create application. Okay. And a lot of that idea come from student, like Transizo was saying just now, the student. How do you capture the student, your knowledge and understanding? How we create an environment for the student, the whole academic ecosystem to be like that. So that's how the economy moving now, in entirely, not entirely, mostly based on knowledge. Okay. The question, Transizo posed a certain question as well. Yes, university, tendency, you create a lot of knowledge. But the question is knowledge action, knowledge retention, knowledge application. Okay. So that's the question posed by Tansi just now. Second, lessons learned. We have learned a lot, but maybe individually not enough sharing then. So that's the question we're going to ask ourselves. Have we done enough? The third, we collected store. Maybe not enough, but we need to do more. But the question is, what about reuse? What about conversion? What about from the word transit? What about integrating that knowledge? What about interlinking? So this, I pose this 3 types of question into, but there's more actually. This for us to start to think why knowledge is important. What are you doing in relation to the life, to the whole world, to the nation, and to human race, basically. And one thing that we need to understand is in the context of organization like IIUM, your biggest asset is actually asset that walks in and out every day. Meaning to say, we clock in at 9 or 8:30 in the morning or 9, whatever. We leave the office at 5, 6, whatever time that you leave the office. Okay, that's the part where actually your IIUM owns the biggest asset of the organization, which is the brain, the power, manpower, the capacity, the experience, the skill of the population of IIUM. Beyond that, like gas, Bank Negara own gas 13 years. Okay, or whatever it is, Bank Negara. But outside of Bank Negara, Ghazali can be anything. Okay, can do anything, can share with anything. So that's the context that we are in today. Some of these tasks as touched, I'm just going to do it quickly and maybe more detail on some item or issue. Yes, this is sort of like indicator. You may have problem with knowledge when, for example, we repeat mistake. It's not that we want to repeat mistake, actually. The problem is sometimes we do not know that that mistake happened somewhere. But in our culture, because we try our best to hide our mistake, that's what's going to happen. somebody else will repeat that mistake. So we are not learning from that mistake because we are not sharing, we are not exposed that mistake because we thought a mistake is actually bad for us, then what makes everyone start to create the same mistake. So this is the worst part. As opposed to reinventing the wheel, like Fadzil was saying, we have done a lot because we do not capture, we not put in relevant database, we do not link and all that. We reinvent the wheels. A lot of this. Economically, you put it in terms of dollar and cent, I think I don't know how much that we have invested actually. Could be million, at least couple of million. We have to risk profiling, but not enough business continue. This is talking in the context of COVID. Okay. We do a lot of risk profiling. We do trying to manage our risk. But at the end of the day, to certain aspect that I found out, especially during the COVID-19 crisis, the pandemic, especially the first one, during the first PKP, there's no actually business continuity plan. People just get caught. Okay, we do not know what to do. Okay, so that's an indication. Good ideas don't get shared. This is obvious. I don't have to expand on this. We have a lot of documentation, example ISO, but no collective learning. Kalau ada pun sikit lah. We do a lot of this documentation, but there's not enough learning from that documentation. Just taking from Tansin Zul just now, there's no integration, there's no interlinking, and sometimes these documents are missing. It's not missing because they're missing, but because they are not visible to the community, to the population organization, then people do not know that this document exists. So there's some part of knowledge management effort, daily work of knowledge management is actually to create the visibility of this knowledge. We talk about open access, open sign, but we're not open. That's culture thing. We do not want to share. We refuse to share. Sometimes we blatantly know, I do not want to share. But this is the thing that we need to start to change. Okay. Interestingly, never mind, let's move on. We are dependent on key individuals. If you have this kind of situation, if anything happen, work stop because somebody is missing, somebody not there, then you have major problem with knowledge. In my life, working with organization that I've worked with, I found this quite, not to say prevalent or rampant, exists quite a bit in organization. The dependence on one or key individuals, too much dependent, can kill us and stop everything, especially if you're in business. This is just a short list, but I can tell you there is more. Okay, there is more. If you think about it, especially when we think about it and the thing that we have done, our work and all that, we can make sense of this when we have problem issue with this. Okay. Yes, last but not least, like I was saying just now, the most important asset, only I said that's you and me that walk away easily from an organization to whatever means. Okay, let's read the
We have a question. Would like to
go ahead.
Address the question here. Doctor, people always ask what I can get in return if I share my knowledge. Is there any suitable incentives that the organization can provide to those sharing their knowledge despite of promotion?
Okay. Well, it goes back like what Tan Sri Zul was saying just now. Okay, to me personally, at the end of the day, why I do share? Because I want to share. Knowledge is not my knowledge, actually. It's given to me temporarily. That's an answer of a Muslim to a Muslim, yeah? Okay. But in the context of understand that question exists. Why, if I want to share? The question is today is to ask yourself, if you do not share, this I addressed the same question years ago when I was in MDC. Okay, we are in the technology industry. You do not share, the lead time that you have from having that piece of knowledge or information is actually 3 months. At that point in time, 3 months, because after 3 months, everybody know already what you have. People will know. because that's the nature of knowledge. Same, even worse today. I mean, the condition is even worse today, is that the time, actually, duration is faster. It's shorter than 3 months. Whatever you think you have now, actually, somebody, if you don't give or share whatever, somebody will know next week or next 3 days already what you have. Believe me. And what's happened? And then you know that, well, you look back. You look back, you're telling everybody you're not like to share, you're afraid to share, whatever the case may be. But the point is, at the end of the day, is you look back for not sharing. I think that's the intrinsic incentive for you as a person, you know that. For as organization, initially, historically, yes, we have incentive. Like when I was at MDC, then especially the Bank Negara Malaysia, we early on give incentive that if you want to start to populate, share, fill up our repository, all that, we're going to give you points and all that. But immediately, we stop. We just stop. Because when we realize, actually, that's our work, actually. And later on, when I explain about knowledge, I think you will understand. Because it's our way of life, actually. Even in organization, we cannot share. Again, looking at yourself, if you have that knowledge, you do not share now, the only person that's going to be benefit on that knowledge is actually you alone. You alone, and trying to address issue of the world, how long that you think it will take? As opposed to, you have that knowledge, you share, like in IIUM, you share with everything about your knowledge, what you know, and then suddenly your knowledge that you have actually explode into a bigger knowledge, you create, and the whole organization benefit more, even more. And hence, Malaysia and the world and the human race will benefit more. I put my argument like that and try to answer like that rather than purely looking from monetary value, reward, or incentive. I hope I answered the question.
There's another one question from Dr. Muslim.
Okay.
What we as a university community...
Can I add that question to apa Dato' Ghazali, Dr. Ghazali kata tadi tu?
Yes, please.
I mean, for if the question come from IIUM, I think what we were trying to do is basically to expand your horizon as an academic staff. For example, as mentioned by Dr. Ghazali tadi, you may be an engineer, but your knowledge base is more than engineering. You know, we have seen this. Some of you, I know there's one student who is a lawyer, but write very fantastic poetry, misalnya. Yeah. Kalau kita go by strictly our own domain, we just reward you because you are a lawyer. But this girl, we're going to reward her because she's also write fantastic poetry, and she's published 2 books on poetry. And some of the poetry is already being selected as one of the best poetry around it. So we want to expand ourselves as a human being, more than just what we are trained for. There's certain talents within. Norani was talking to me, the library, kalau boleh dia nak masak. Mana librarian pernah masak? But then, you know, if there is an opportunity for them to masak, why not? That's part of knowledge. I think let's not compartmentalize knowledge the way that we were trained. Kalau library boleh hidangkan satu makanan masakan yang baik, I think we will accept that as part and parcel of this knowledge thing. So we don't want to go into a very specific knowledge. I worry this because when we Muslim, we tend to look very inwardly. And sebab everything kita nakkan ada perkataan Islam depan tu. Kalau tak ada Islamic ni, then it's not Muslim. You know. So I want to open this up. So anything that is good is Islamic. Anything that is bad is non-Islamic. Sama ada, tak ada depannya. You make the judgment whether the hasil actually belongs to you. So the reward comes in a different way, not in a monetary way as mentioned. It gives you satisfaction. It gives you, you know, the kind of what you call usefulness, yeah, in your life. And Alhamdulillah, I will tell you also this, that people will notice you at a certain point and say, can you come and give us a talk? And then I think you make your day.
Very true, Tan Sri, very true.
But you need to do that investment. Tapi kalau you buat, kalau hari ni there's no incentive, so I'm not going to share. You know, and there's no incentive, I'm not going to. So you will live and die with your knowledge, and nobody will know you. Nobody will recognize you. If that's what you want, Alhamdulillah. But otherwise, I think there are other doors that can be opened just because you contribute to other people. Power sharing is knowledge. Knowledge sharing is power, not knowledge itself. Knowledge itself has nothing, but when the moment you share, then the power becomes ended up. Sorry, Dato Ghaz, if I take your time. Assalamualaikum.
I just like to extend from what Tan Sri shared just now. It's true. When I reflect on my life, it's true. I like to share, not because I like to share, but just, I guess it's me, okay? But a lot of my friends ask me, Ghaz, are you not afraid to share? You seem to share everything. I said, no, why? I think it will kill you. You kill profession. Alhamdulillah, like what Tan Sri is saying is now, I got invited to more sessions to give talk, more opportunity to share like today. So I'm blessed in that way. So I'm blessed. Okay, Prof. Rahman, you have another question?
Yes, there's another question from Dr. Muslim. What we as a university community can contribute to knowledge management? I think now, the creation of awareness is there and people are starting to be motivated to start contributing, but they want to know what can they contribute.
Okay, the whole slide after this will tell you that story. We share that. If I'm not answering that question through my slide, I can ask additional question. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, I think we're familiar with this image, an iceberg. Of course, the nature of an iceberg, and you can see under the face, you can see a tiny iceberg, but in fact, now from Titanic story, the size of that iceberg underneath the surface. Okay, let's see. And I'm going to use this slide to explain initially from business context that used by Carl Eric Swiby. This is one of the Sifu in knowledge management that I learned together and learned a lot from him initially, beginning of 1992. He used this slide actually and used Intel as an example to explain what the economists at one time, the accountants need to understand, and eventually evolve to people like us need to understand what is it about this knowledge thing. Okay, yes, this is an individual balance sheet for Intel in 1998, to be exact, September 30 years. Yeah, Carl Eric, what he did actually pull that balance sheet, look at this, and try to make sense of this. What that balance sheet that tells us or tell them at that point in time. What they see at the top is this: the asset of Intel at that point in time, which include cash, current asset, and equipment. The value was actually 29 billion on the asset part. On the finance side, when they look at the balance sheet, the debt and the visible equity, the value collectively is 21 billion. Okay. But at that point in time, in the market saw the value of Intel is actually 127 billion. That's not small money, to the business, even to everyone. That's not small money. If you minus that, actually, the difference is actually 106 billion US dollars. And at that point in time, they call it as invisible equity. But of course, this excites people like Kak Swedi or the accountant to understand and all that. In fact, from that year on, a lot of them trying to put in their balance sheet, and because they still a little stage of understanding that, they put it in their report as goodwill. Goodwill. Of course, beyond that, people start to research, to understand aspect and terms. Firstly, terms like intangible asset came up to define this invisible equity. Intellectual capital came out, was used again to define this invisible equity, and then eventually it was known as knowledge asset. So that's the value of that knowledge asset, the invisible equity of Intel in 1998. So people see graphing. This push the idea when people need to understand. This is push the idea, what are we dealing with? Okay. This is sort of like the birth of people moving, trying to understand what knowledge management is. What are we managing? What is it? So what is intellectual capital? What is intellectual asset? What is knowledge asset? Okay, let's go with knowledge asset. What is knowledge asset in this case? And there's a huge sum, yeah? You can see that. In fact, if I were, or somebody were to do Petronas today, I guess it will look the same. What actually the market or the public saw in Intel in 1998 that was so much? What then knowledge asset? What's on the surface again? What we see knowledge asset as document, videos, numbers, databases, repositories, manuals, pictures, and something that we're very familiar with is book. Yeah. And in the world today, it is known as explicit knowledge. Anything that has been transformed into or codified into a tangible books, manual, whatever, and other thing, SOP, whatever, they are known as explicit knowledge. So what's underneath the surface actually? Skill, know-how, competencies, experiences, talents, lessons learned, brand, relationship. There's a lot more. Okay, this slide will trigger us a lot more, definitely, and put in context to the meaning for UIA or IIUM to be specific. Okay, to look where are we in terms of this. Of course, this knowledge that Tansrizal already mentioned it is tacit knowledge. So the question is now, how are we doing with this? How are we managing these two, explicit and tacit? What do we do? And how are we been managing knowledge, this type of knowledge so far? Explicit knowledge, we are pretty good. I'm not saying that we are very good, but some, yes, we are very good. There are pockets, opportunity, especially those mentioned like Tansrizal just now. Is there enough thing or done being captured properly? Now you know what you need to capture. Why repository in that sense are important in this place? Okay, and why do you need create? But to a certain extent, we have done this, but now is we need to start to ask whether we have collected the right thing or we have done enough to manage our explicit knowledge. What about tacit? To me, we are there, but we neither here nor there in terms of explicit knowledge. We do not understand enough, firstly, and we are not so good here, actually. This is where the challenge is. And the other challenge is actually, is this. You need to connect the explicit and tacit. We need to link these two. Again, Tansrizal has mentioned this already. Integrating the two knowledge assets is actually the key. How do you integrate this? How do you link this? Because basically, most of the time, explicit knowledge, they are dormant. Dormant is that if you're not been using that type of knowledge, they will be there. For example, if a book will be there, if database, that will be there, unless you use it or create something to make it really usable so that people can use. Or in fact, we can make it even more visible, because in organization, I found that the issue is not whether or not they have or do not have that piece of knowledge or explicit knowledge. They do, but they do not know where they are. It's lost within the organization. So the job of knowledge management is actually to resurface, to create an environment and feature a system to make all this knowledge, especially knowledge, visible to the organization. And then only you can start to link, recreate, and whatnot. Okay, so that's where we are now. That's how I see where we are now in terms of this. Okay, let's move on. Now, yeah, Puan Nurani just now was right to say there's a lot of the definition of KM relative to the organization. But in this case, what it is knowledge management is the management of explicit and tacit knowledge. Okay, we need to understand that. Okay, what is KM then? Okay, I just picked two definitions, one from Ernst & Young and the other from Gardner Group. I've only both from consulting group, yeah? When you look at that, look at thing in yellow, process, technologies, organization, capturing, classifying, and adding value to the intellectual capital of the firm. This was Ernst & Young. For Gardner, it's a discipline, creation, capture, organization, access, and use of enterprise information asset. This asset include structured databases, textual information, and most importantly, the tacit knowledge and expertise within the individual in the organization. After years of doing this, and I defined this for my organization back then. Knowledge management to us was the discipline, process, culture in managing the strategic knowledge asset of the organization. I added one component, which is culture, which is very much that we need to understand about how we deal with knowledge organization. That's why it is important organization. So in the G's, this is what KM is. Okay. I put that in my organization, strategic knowledge asset, simply because in organization like Bank Negara Malaysia, for example, we cannot just simply manage and treat every knowledge as very, very important, because that amount to the cost that we're going to take to manage things like that and put properly. Okay, so we have to make certain decisions and all that. So in order for us to define that, to understand what is our critical knowledge asset, we do a knowledge audit. I understand that UIA, you have done your knowledge audit years ago. I do not know what methodology that you're using, but I can understand sure that this is some of things that you did and tried to find and try to identify. Again, in a knowledge audit, the third thing that you want to identify is strategic knowledge asset. And this strategic asset can be categorized in the 6 component methods. Other this method, method is how you do things effectively in UIA. Strangely, some of this method, the SOP says something else, but the methods being used actually differently. That's what it means by method, as opposed to SOP. So SOP can be document. So document, you're very familiar. Skill, I mentioned, experience, natural talent, and relationship. These are the things that you want to identify within the organization and identify whether or not they are strategic or not. Okay, so decision is yours actually. Whatever, how you define strategic is yours. Okay, but most of the time, what we have been identifying can be classified as only document. Most of that, almost none for skill, experience, natural talent, relationship, and method. Almost none. Okay, maybe you guys different after 50 years or so. You have captured a lot of other things as well. Okay, please correct me if I'm wrong in that space because you have gone through the experience. But in this context, okay, we are looking knowledge asset within organization with the view of external knowledge as well as internal knowledge. If you do an audit, potentially you will do a lot more on internal knowledge, which is IIUM knowledge. Okay, so that gives you an idea. How are you going to identify strategic knowledge asset? Let me move on. I know I have time to consider here. Okay, we have learned so far new way of knowledge. What is knowledge? Tacit, explicit. Knowledge management is about discipline, process, and culture of managing strategic knowledge asset. And knowledge idea comprises of trying to identify documents, skill, experience, natural talent, relationship, and methods. Okay. Now,
okay. Would you like to address the question first, or yeah?
Yeah, go ahead.
The question from Mazna Zakaria. What is the best way to manage or capture tacit knowledge? Because you mentioned about tacit knowledge earlier.
Okay.
Selain knowledge sharing via talks, webinars, etc. Some people
Okay.
don't have time to turn their tacit knowledge, their tacit into explicit knowledge. So
Okay.
how
Thank
can
you
you help
very
us
much.
understand this? Yeah.
Yes, I will address that question certainly a bit more detail later on. But for now, yes, those sort of things that you mentioned is the right way to me how. In fact, Tan Sri Zul, his story just now actually tells you a bit about how you're going to capture knowledge actually. How you're going to want to transform or codify tacit knowledge into explicit. You do a lot of talk, you do a lot of writing. That's a good way to do it. But I will expand that a bit more later, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, let me put this in a context, in a structure, in a framework. Acquire, share, create, seek, retain, reuse is actually a knowledge process. Remember that definition just now? Knowledge process. So these are a process. Knowledge process, you acquire, you share knowledge, you create, you seek, you retain, and you use. And of course, it's moved around your strategic knowledge asset, or even any type of knowledge asset, basically. But what around you, when you deal with experience tacit knowledge is, for example, yeah, every one of us, when we want to seek, or if you are academic, a student, or yeah, you want to do research, potentially when you say you seek, a lot of people will start with Google, unfortunately, okay? A lot of people start with Google. Or you can ask the librarian, or you can search the database or repository that we have, or you have in IIUM. You could read. That's how you seek knowledge. You ask your colleague, the best person that you know that has that knowledge. You ask experts. You seek for information, and you do, because you want to keep updated with the new knowledge. You do information scanning. You subscribe to feed whatever to keep you updated with latest information. That's seeking. When you acquire, again, you ask expert. You do research. You look at research. You do research because you want to acquire new understanding about certain perspective. You purchase knowledge. For example, the library, you purchase databases, you acquire knowledge to bring into the UIA system so that everybody can have access to that knowledge. You purchase. Or you simply, as an organization, you do not have that skill set or expertise in UIA, the teaching academic. Yeah, you hire somebody with that expert, with that expertise to be your teaching staff, to do research for you. That's how you acquire. Or as a company, like what Google and big company are doing, they acquire a company. They do not have that knowledge. They do not that skill. They acquire the whole company, be their company. So they take over a company. That's how they acquire that knowledge. Last, maybe you have a discussion. Through discussion, through conversation, to session like this, you're acquiring knowledge. Okay. Research, when you create, you research, you're writing, you're discussing project, and even a lot more actually, where you create. Share. You can share through writing, discussion, or session like what we're doing now, seminar, conferences, virtual or physical, and even meeting. We have a lot of meetings in our organization. Make that meeting a knowledge event or session. For example, what we did at Bank Negara, first half an hour, actually we share knowledge. Simply asking, okay, this week I've gone and see these people, blah, 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 share. Everyone have their 5 or 10 minutes of sharing. And then we start the meeting proper. Okay, that's what we can do immediately. Okay, bear with me. Reuse or use. They certainly not cut and paste, but you actually use that piece of information like what Tan Sri was alluding to, and his story saying that how actually you can benefit years of users in medicine, and even now knowledge and republish, and somebody want to turn it as a book and a guide. That's indication how you use and reuse. That's how also you making the explicit knowledge alive. Okay, remember I said the explicit tendency of explicit knowledge to be dormant, if not being used, of course. How many books that you have behind you, like what I have behind me? If I have not used it, that knowledge is only sitting there, unless I pick up the book, read and use and recreate new knowledge. Okay. Again, a lot of ways means how you use and reuse knowledge. Retain. You can archive, you can create repositories, you can do a knowledge capture, and yang can talk and retain within the people. Okay, this is indication. This is one answer to that question just now. How you retain knowledge, tacit knowledge actually. One of the best way we find out kat bank negara is to retain it within the people. We retain our strategic knowledge within the people, meaning to say, you know the term of learning organization, all that. We create that learning environment, we retain from the senior staff to junior and all that. That's how we retain knowledge asset as well kat bank negara. Okay, why I'm doing this? I'm telling you, actually, all this knowledge process is not strange to us. It's not Greek to us because we are using and doing it almost every day. Be it who we are, student ke, lecturer ke, me, sample ke, you are using all this. You are doing that knowledge process already. Actually. No matter who you are, like for instance, my wife, kalau pagi ni dia nak masak, okay, how I want to create. Mana sekali dia tengok dekat punya fridge, my fridge kan, okay, ada sayur ni, ada ikan ni. Immediately think, okay, I boleh masak ni. But I want to try something better today. I want to surprise my husband who busy looking at in front of PC all the time. Okay, so she require. So what my wife would do and is doing actually, dia Google, dia tanya your friend, dia ada subscribe to gang-gang yang share resip makanan apa semua yang sedap. Dia open dia punya database and then look at them and learn from that and cook new dish ke whatever it is. So even my wife kat dapur is actually using this process. Now everyone, in fact, using this process. So there's nothing strange with this process actually. And why I like to use hexagon like this, because they are interrelated and they are interlinked. All this process actually can happen at one time. For example, like what we are doing today, I may be sharing knowledge management, the topic of knowledge with you. You at the same time are acquiring knowledge from me. Okay. When we discuss, when I answer question, when you pose question, then we are creating the knowledge by the answer, and you give me, I'm also benefit from this because I get certain new perspective about what I'm talking about from your question. So knowledge process, one, can happen at one time, okay, with a lot of this. So knowledge process like sharing, create can happen in one sitting, one element. So what I'm saying is, knowledge process is not sequential. It's not that you have to share first, create, or you create first and whatnot. So they are a dynamic process, interrelated and interlinked. So that's knowledge process. Okay. As a learner, I just recently got this slide actually. That I discovered it. As a learner, we are a learner, right? What we do as learner, first, maybe we explore. Once we understand things better, we create. We write papers, we write whatever it is, like assignment, whatever it is. And some part of that, so we need to collaborate with our colleague, student, because learning today you know, as you all know, being an academic environment, is collaborative. Learning is collaborative. And you need to connect, not only to connect the person, to your databases, the document, whatever. You need to reflect, time to reflect, and of course share. As a learner, as a person also, we actually living this knowledge process. So this should not be a surprise to all of us. Okay, let me put this into context of giving a better perspective. I have to move a bit fast here. You understand that in Middle East strategy knowledge asset, the process around you, all these 6, yeah? What actually would help you when you want to create a knowledge ecosystem, knowledge management system in IIUM to have this? Look what you have done. Maybe we have done a lot in technology and system. Maybe we have done a lot in repositories. Okay. What about other things? What about knowledge leadership? What about policy and procedure? What I mean by policy and procedure, for example, if anybody want to create a database repository in IIUM, do you have a policy saying that you need to follow this taxonomy or classification, follow this structure, use this metadata and all that? Is there a governance policy in that? Is there a policy, for example, if any of you discover the knowledge, whatever, 3 days for that, share, have a knowledge sharing session, whatever, that sort of thing. Okay, culture, look at the culture, especially what is working, what's not. Talent, methods. You may have a lot of sharing. What are the methods and tools that you can use? Those that familiar to us in knowledge sharing, maybe you have seminar, conferences, discussion, whatever. There are other tools that actually you can include and put and be part of your value chain and ecosystem. Of course, learning program. What about coaching and mentoring? The one that in green outside this, actually there are enablers that can improve your knowledge process and the way how you manage your knowledge asset or knowledge, basically tacit and explicit in your organization. This actually a framework from Bank Negara Malaysia that I've used. I learned about the understanding the whole ecosystem. Maybe this will work for you, maybe not. But this is certainly going to give you certain perspective where you have done what you have done, what more to be done and what not. Okay?
Dr. Ghaz, while you're there,
Yeah.
there is a question. Knowledge management is perceived as extra work. Does benchmarking, you mentioned about Bank Negara, for example. So does benchmarking against other organizations makes us mediocre or just be like everybody else?
Okay. Thank you for that question. It is a very pertinent question. Actually, that question thrown to me, my face, when I was actually at Bank Negara, I'm trying to share certain perspective about knowledge and all that. There's one manager said to me, Gus, you are asking us to do your work. Of course, tersentak lah kan. To that extent, they think that you're actually asking us to do your work when I explain everything. Then I discuss with them and tell them the slide, not exactly the slide, but the slide that I use and the storyline that I used just now. Where is the point that actually you are doing my work, whereas you actually doing it? You are creating knowledge. When you want to do project, when you do develop policy, you're seeking knowledge. You're retaining knowledge because you store document, whatever it is, somewhere within our system. In fact, when you want to start a policy writing or something, you actually ask your friend because you acquire new knowledge, because you want to understand this perspective. And then you develop policy and you, in fact, you write the article. This is me answering that person directly. Yeah? Write the article and produce it. Basically, you are actually seeking, retaining, reusing, acquiring, sharing, and creating knowledge. Which of this part is actually you are doing for me? I answer the person that way. Then I say, in fact, we are helping you. I said, when you want to retain the store, I already created a repository for you to save your document there properly. We index, we extract, we give a proper taxonomy so that when anybody search our system, anybody in the bank can know that you have written this. I also helping you. If you want to share, probably you don't have to share through writing. We give you space. Kita develop a program, a learning program. We call it Tea Talk Friday. Petang kan? Tea Talk. Friday evening Tea Talk. We give you space. Say, if you want to share this thing verbally, I get you and the audience, and I publish everything. I do the communication. You just come and talk, share your knowledge. In fact, I'm actually helping more your work. I'm not really doing your work. You're already doing what you are doing. So that's my answer.
There's a second part of that question on benchmarking. Whether benchmarking will make us mediocre or just like everybody else.
Okay. I have to be very careful with this answer, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I like benchmarking. The status of benchmarking is actually, you actually want to know the current state of certain thing. Yeah? Remember, current. It's not best practice. The current practice of something. Yeah. You do benchmarking because you want to learn and you want to know what's the current practice of something. But certainly, you need to move beyond current practice. You need to be The next practice, that's what we're looking for. Okay. It's not bad in that sense, but it's good. But you have to do it within that context. You want to understand the state of the art of the subject. That's why you do benchmarking. To a certain extent, I do not like personally the word best practice, because that's bad practice is practice best at a moment in time. It's not best practice in the future. No, that moment in time. So we always pursue the next practice. So you do benchmarking with the idea of understanding the correct practice and move beyond that current practice to the next practice. So that's how I use benchmarking. So in answering the question, if you use benchmarking because that is the thing that you must do, you want to follow everybody, that you make you like anybody else. So you're not growing. Okay, I hope that answered the question.
We have about 15 more minutes.
Exactly. That's why I'm pushing. That's why I'm pushing.
There's still a question there. People like the audience are quite eager to know more. Now, the question: who determines or prioritizes strategic knowledge assets of the university?
The organization. All of you have to decide and define what is strategic. All of you. We need to say all of you means at the end of the day, maybe Tan Sri Zul and the management committee need to decide. Okay, what is strategic knowledge said? Oh, you need to focus, extra focus on this. Okay.
Can I chip on that one? This one, this year we will go back to this Sejahtera academic framework. We define that everything there, and then you will pick it from there. So everybody has a chance to decide what is important, given that framework. Okay.
Thank you, Tan Sri.
Okay, now just to give you another perspective about tacit and explicit, this came from Dave Snowden. He is more into complexity theory and all that. But be mindful. This is something that I advise people, saying that be careful with that about knowledge and tacit knowledge. Yeah, and this is part answering that previous question as well. Please take note that knowledge can only be volunteered. You cannot force. Cannot first ask people. You must do. Once that happens culturally in our organization, culturally in our society, when you force somebody, it's not volunteer. People will just share what they think they want to share, what they want to share. Because we need to be careful of that. Okay. Second one, we always know more than we can say. We always say more than we can write down. That's true. Like for instance, myself, I definitely can talk more than I can write. And it's quick as well. So you need to understand that. As important, yeah, I agree. It's very important to write down. I totally agree with Tan Sri. I totally agree. Because we want everyone to write. But please be mindful, at a certain point, you can say more than you write. So that's why the importance of, remember, linking the tacit knowledge explicit. You need to continuously link that explicitly, especially who those actually write or written a book. You link to that person, make that person available so that he can explain, add on to the set knowledge that they recreated or they published years ago and all that. So that they can bagi new contact, new perspective, current knowledge and all that. So be mindful of that. Thirdly, we only know what we know when we need to know. Human knowledge is deeply contextual. As I said, it is triggered by circumstances. I know so much about knowledge management. If you do not ask me that question, I do not know what I have. I don't know what can come up from my mind, So, and I can only share with you from the perspective, scope that given to me. I'm sharing this. But a lot of this can be triggered by you, by your question. That's why I like you asking question at any point in time. Okay. Quickly, this is also by this Snowden Convent framework. Generally, we are operating in this space: simple, complicated, complex, and chaotic. Unfortunately, we always treat our issue in this space. We tend to think, assume, and manage our issue as a simple, meaning to say, oh, this thing can be done with SOP. We can ada checklist more okay. Kita can okay. Whereas a lot of time we are operating in complicated, where you need expert to think, you need good practice, you need really expert domain to come out to explain about certain thing. Worse still in a complex Rahman where you do not know anything. Chaotic, is COVID-19. Exactly best way to describe COVID is COVID-19 bila mula-mula actually masa first time kita kena. Okay. Even the expert pun tak tahu apa nak buat. Tak tahu nak explain, tak tahu what happened. We just react, do respond. React, do respond. Maknanya kita buat, oh no good, tak betul. Kita learn together, we recreate, we do. Then, so that's kind of thing. Of course, all of this can softly move to simple, but not all can move into simple. Certain part of the aspect of it can move to simple domain. Yeah. So please be mindful of that. There's a good paper on this if you want to read. Nanti I will share lah. Okay. Okay. This will answer that question in totality about how do you manage tacit knowledge. This one. This is Bank Negara experience. Yeah. You can add a lot more boxes. We were aware of that knowledge process, which is anything, all of this can happen at the same time. So how do we manage that? For explicit knowledge, I go there first, sebab senang kan? Okay, we buy e-books, we prepare, give books, whatnot. Kita develop e-libraries, kita develop a lot of knowledge repositories. Kita even develop learning cases. For example, financial crisis 1997, kita buat case studies so that we can teach, everybody can learn. So through learning cases, we have our learning management system. From minutes of meeting, we compile, put, everybody can learn. It's not, ada certain minutes is action minute, ada satu minute yang verbatim minute pun ada. Kadang-kadang kita share. Of course, article, EDMS is our electronic document management system. VDR is our virtual discussion room. Kita ada masa tu, report, and what else. So this explicit, already you understand familiar. But how do we manage tacit knowledge and link that to explicit knowledge? This is what we have done. We introduce tool, method, for example, after action review. Every project team, after their project, in fact, after their event, whatever work, you need to do after action review. A 5 minute, let's talk. Let's do an AAR, short for after action review. Okay, let's talk about what we have planned, what happened, and what should happen, and what we have learned. So everybody will do that, a quick one, after every event, after session, and all that, especially kalau project. Coaching. We assign everybody a coach. Coaching could be developmental coaching and also coaching because kita nak transfer knowledge, people knowledge. Coach, somebody yang pandai, terror expert, coach, mentor, coach, dia punya subordinate, people below him or across the department. So we have coaching. Communities of practice, I think you're all very familiar with communities of practice. I don't want to explain that. Interviews also, we did a lot of interviews. But one thing we learned, exit interview in order to capture knowledge, fail. Okay, because we fail because people at the end dia dah nak resign ke retire ke, dia akan share what they want to share because dia nak keluar cepat. You will not get enough values from that interview especially. Instead, what we have done actually, kita spend macam Tan Sri cakap lah tadi, oral history. Kita cakap dia, I want to tape of your session, whatever. Can you just talk whatever you want to talk? Jangan bagi dia too much structure. Dia akan terjadi. Dia akan share whatever. So allow him or the person to talk about experience. And then the work, then once you have captured that, maybe some of you need to do a knowledge analysis of that talk lah. Macam buat research lah. You categorize whatever, you develop something and make that as a knowledge product. Okay. Job rotation is one intervention, how we share knowledge. Let me quickly explain. Department A, Department B, tak nak bercakap, tak nak kongsi. Padahal dua-dua need the information. Tak jadi. So kita move the person that heading this department to that person. You know what happened? Suddenly this person realize, I need the information from that department lah. Selama ni aku tak bagi kan. Now I know why. So we use job rotation in that sense lah. But you know, job rotation can do a lot more in terms of, especially if you not to make knowledge actually more viable, dispersed. It's not institutional in that sense, not individual in that sense. Knowledge cafe is also a cafe, physical cafe, as well as a method yang kita guna and to teach and to share, get people to share knowledge. Knowledge fair, storytelling, One of the best tool that we use actually, like Tan Sri Zul was saying, that's why I said Tan Sri Zul is doing a lot of things just now. One of the things is actually he used storytelling way of sharing the perspective. Bila Tan Sri Zul reflect on the days masa dia dekat USM, he actually storing that story, putting in context that piece of knowledge so that we understand better. That's storytelling, bukan storytelling pada satu hari ini, zaman ini, not that storytelling. This is really storytelling in that sense. Project team, mentoring, macam coaching tadi, every one of us ada mentor, we choose our mentor. The mentor tadi somebody yang dah experience, learner and whatnot, and mentee of course yang baru nak belajar. So knowledge transfer, tacit knowledge transfer within that relationship. That's why relationship is one of the key strategic knowledge asset. Leaders, experts, as teachers, you are in an academic environment, you are already doing this. So you are already sharing, you are already teaching. Expand this a little bit more. Maybe you can be innovative how you want to bring. In bank negara, there's one incentive to the liberty expert. Kita bagi dia classroom. Kita develop a program, kita bagi dia classroom, kita bagi dia student. They come and teach. They are happy. They can share, they can teach. They are happy. In fact, dia memang tak sabar nak mengajar, that sense. Okay? So, but organizationally, we retaining that expertise, that knowledge within the new staff and all that. So, they share knowledge that way. What else? Yeah, other thing that I can spend a lot more time talking about, like strategic conversation, task force committees, T-talks I mentioned just now. And one thing I really want to expand a bit is knowledge space. Is IIUM a knowledge space as a location, as a building and all that? I think you all need to answer that yourself and you have the answer. To us, kat bank negara, knowledge space is everywhere. This is where things can happen. That's why kita give particular reason why that space look like this. Kenapa banyak cermin, kenapa kursi dan macam ni, kenapa environment. Because that's the knowledge environment that you want to create so that everybody can senang or culturally can share, start having a conversation, share knowledge and all that. Again, I can be more detailed about that. I know I'm mindful of time. I do not have time to that. Maybe I leave it to your question next. Okay. This is our critical. Okay.
Dr.
Ada
Ghaz,
question? Yes.
Maybe before you finish and wrap up your presentation, there were two questions. I just want to be fair to the questioner. Dr. Sakib Mazin earlier asked a very fundamental questions on the difference between knowledge management and information management. And also, I think I would like to also read one last question from Dr. Muslim. Some knowledge are sometimes meant for expert or field specialists. How best to manage this knowledge in terms of knowledge sharing? And maybe after you finish answering this question, maybe you can also wrap up your presentation. Yeah.
Okay, the second question tadi, I tak perasan.
The second one, some knowledge sometimes meant for expert or field specialist. And then how, if this is the situation, how best to manage this kind of knowledge in terms of knowledge sharing?
I quickly answer that question. Yeah, get them to talk. Get them how to converse, to meet more. Because this is expert, the like-minded mind. They can understand better if they have their space, they have their situation where they can click. This is also the term that I use to explain knowledge accident. You create an environment where people with the same minded, like-minded, jumpa je dia click. Orang lain semua tak faham apa dia cakap. Dia dua orang je cakap, faham. Okay, so a good incentive is to get them to talk and meet together, because you're actually addressing these two groups, them je kan. Because you want to have this expert, a man for certain field expert to understand that. So get them, connect them more. Okay. The first question tadi?
Something quite fundamental, the difference between knowledge management and information management.
Yeah. This is tricky in that sense. I've gone through the process. Okay, I've been educated. I've been academically as information manager and moved into knowledge management. What's the difference? Okay, if I want to be honest with myself, that not much relevant, but only can be defined from the context of managing tacit knowledge and explicit knowledge. Of course, knowledge management tends to look at both more, but even more. And information management will look at specific things like, now we have data science, we have all this data warehousing, things like that, looking at the nitty-gritty of the information. But in a sense, information needs builds on top, knowledge management builds need on top of information management. I've written an article on that to explain a bit more about the two different things. Maybe I need help from my colleague. Maybe Madam Nurani can share the article with the rest. So that in that article, I explain a bit about the demarcation, the differentiation between information management and knowledge management. Okay, because we don't have time now. So I think, and next, after that, maybe you can ask me more. Okay, my last slide.
Will do, Dr. Ghaz.
Sorry?
Inshallah.
Sorry?
Will do. We will do.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Inshallah.
Okay. So we realize now, every one of us, we just not a custodian, creator, whatever of knowledge. We are actually, in a sense, every one of us actually manage knowledge in your end. We have our own world. We have our own perspective. We understand better what we are creating. Every one of us need to have to take up this role, actually. If there is a databases that you create, or repository, you fill out that you create properly with the help of maybe somebody that knows how to organize knowledge or information better. Okay. But the role is yours. Everyone should understand this and manage this, because you're living it. You are creating knowledge. You're a producer. You just not create what bagi somebody to manage. No. See, the value chain continues for you and for everybody else. Of course, for example, library would know better how to manage that. You seek help from them. They create that. But it doesn't mean that everybody needs to be thrown at the library to do everything, even technical or technology, or even create system bagi kat dia. No. Okay. What? Because you know your knowledge better than them, and maybe we can work together collaboratively, give a best solution for everybody. Knowledge rate is good, but need to understand. Tadi pun I dah cerita, dah explain, but knowledge ecosystem, you need to link, and you need to manage a live knowledge rather than knowledge that dormant. How? You create incentive, you create linkages, you create event, you can make that knowledge visible so that everybody aware and you have a discussion about that knowledge. That's how you keep that knowledge alive and continuously being updated. I mean, our ilmu lah. Kita akan lebih banyak ilmu dan sebagainya. Sebab kita will never stop learning. Knowledge, accept, and KM practice. At the end of the day, you should know what are your knowledge, strategic knowledge asset, and you know that KM is a practice. KM is not perpustakaan Darul Hikmah. KM is not knowledge champion. KM is not Tansri Zul. KM is everybody. It's a practice. I've shown you already that KM process, every day kita buat as a process. Kita buat semua tu. Kita guna semua tu. Relate to that the entire ecosystem, then you can understand, can live better. So knowledge management is practice, yeah. More. Of course, it's a process, but to us, it should be a practice. Do not have to manage knowledge directly. Macam saya kata tadi, part of that ecosystem is maybe you need to develop to come out. Maybe you have already, like Tan Sri Zul cakap, you have already that policy, that vision, that mission that govern how you want to manage knowledge. You don't have, contoh, library do not have to manage everything, but just by having certain guideline, rule, policy, everybody can manage knowledge. And you can leave the library, for example, to give a better time, good time, solid time to do information analysis, for example, to do integrating, for example, to do linking all this knowledge better for you. Okay, so let's help each other in that sense. Knowledge portal is good, even better with value add. We analysis this I've said just now lah. Okay. Again, I've said this, not enough sharing, and some of the academic I found afraid to share for whatever the reason. Afraid to share, I do not want to share. I think like we're saying lah, macam dia dah, especially kalau kat IIUM berlaku lah macam dah contradict Islamic University, contradict Islamic value and all that lah. Okay. Forget about other university and all that lah. If that happen kan, sedih lah. That should not happen. Okay. Last but not least, we cannot manage tacit knowledge explicit. Remember, you cannot just simply codify everything, make everything explicit. You need give certain consideration to manage tacit as tacit. How? Macam I explained tadi, through conversation, through collaboration, through giving connection to tacit to tacit, tacit to explicit, explicit to tacit, and all that. Okay, I think I stop there. Maybe I can entertain some more question if the time permits. I'm going to stop sharing now. Then I can see your face, or at least I can see my face. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Ghaz. We wish we can entertain more questions. Unfortunately, that's the time that we have. So inshallah, any questions that we still are not able to respond yet, we will collect them and we will inshallah send to you so that you can give the responses, and then we will email back to the question inshallah.
Inshallah,
So
I will.
thank you so much, Dr. Ghaz, for sharing your priceless knowledge and experience.
Thank you.
It is indeed a very informative and interesting sharing. We believe everyone now has a much better picture of what knowledge management is all about in terms of its best practices in enhancing competitive advantage, improving performance, boosting innovation, sharing insights, and so continuously improving the organization. I think we taking what Prof. Tan Sri Zul mentioned, about the Sejahtera academic framework. I think that probably would be the most important reference for us to begin with in terms of what kind of knowledge that we need to start organizing and managing. To all the participants, I would like to say thanks for all your support and cooperation during this session and also during the question and answer. Any remaining unanswered question, inshallah, will soon be provided to Dr. Ghaz, and its responses, inshallah, will be sent through the email.
Yep.
So, well, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our, yes.
Can I just say thanks to Prof. Ghaz? I think basically fantastic sharing. I think the bottom line is this: we are doing the things that we are doing, except now we have to be more conscious and systematically collating it. And nothing has changed except for how to deposit and how to make it more concrete in that particular context. So thank you very much, Dr. Ghaz. We'll obviously contact you again as we move on, inshallah.
I also like to take this opportunity to Tan Sri, Puan Nurani, Dato, and everybody else. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my knowledge. Yes, you can keep in touch with me. I'll answer all the questions that you have, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Nurani suruh tangkap gambar. Ada orang kata pukul gambar, macam tangkap ke pukul.
Kalau kat kantai igat gambar.
Pukul gambar, okay. But I guess kita pukul gambar di luar ni lah kot, this live thing, insyaAllah. So please stay at the StreamYard platform.
Okay, right. So I think we can now end the session. So, on behalf of the IIUM, we would like to thank all of you for your time, for being part of our wonderful participants in this session. Once again, we would like to express our thanks to the respected speaker and participants who are present. We would like to apologize for any shortcoming and inconveniences. Hopefully, we will meet you again. We wish all of you a pleasant day and stay safe wherever you are. So let's end our sharing session with the recitation of Tasbih Kafarah and Surah Al-Asr.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Okay, thank you. I have to go for another meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Tasbih.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Okay.
I think with that, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.